Now welcome to this lecture. This is Fred Mjomba. Welcome to the ICT class. Now today I'm going to talk about data processing. What is data processing? Earlier on we had defined the word data to mean any raw facts, figures, or anything that is in raw form. That means it has not been processed. It has not gone through the processor. It is called data. And we say data is in two forms. We have analog data and digital data. Digital data is data that can be counted, and analog is data that can be weighed or measured, or something that is in a continuous form. Now, what do we mean when we talk about data processing? Now, data processing simply means the process of transforming those raw facts into meaningful output. So the process of doing that can be done manually or by the use of a machine. If we are talking about manual data processing, we are saying you are using a pen and a paper to process some data. When you write your name, when you write some things using a pen and a paper, you are basically doing manual data processing. You may be adding and subtracting or combining some strings, but using a pen and a paper, that is manual because you are involved there, using your mind, using your hand, and using your body. But what if you're using a typewriter or you're using a computer, an electronic device, to do that data processing? If you're using a computer to do multiplication or addition or typing or combining some stuff, then you're doing data processing. You're changing some information from raw form to a meaningful output, which we call information. Now that has been made successful in our age by the use of a computer. Initially, people used mechanical tools, as we learned when we were talking about history of computers. But now we are using computer, which is a very fast processing machine. Now, data processing methods. There are several methods of processing data. We have seen one of it is manual data processing, where you use your pen and paper. But the other methods are mechanical data processing, where you're using mechanical tools or devices such as typewriters to process data. For those of you who have seen a typewriter, you normally punch some keys and you're using a lot of energy, and you print some characters on a paper. So that is mechanical because you are so much involved, and basically there is no electronic thing about it. It's just mechanical way. But we have the third mode, or the third method of processing data, which is electronic. Electronic is where you employ the use of a computer to process data, because computer is an electronic device that accepts data and produces an output. So this is the most efficient way of processing data. So if given a question about data processing, you should understand that there are those three methods: manual, mechanical, and electronic. Now, let's look at the modes. We have talked about methods. Now, what are the modes? Now, modes simply mean this data that is being processed. How is it being processed? How is the processing methodology? How does it work? Okay? So in this case, we are saying what operating system, what can it do, and how, and what time. So some of these modes include online data processing mode, the word online. Then another mode is real time. data processing. The other mode is called distributed data processing. The other mode is time sharing. The other mode is batch processing, from the word batch. The other mode is multi-processing, multi, which is many. And another mode is multitasking. Now let me just go through one by one very quickly. Online processing mode, in this mode we are saying data is immediately processed as it is being received. So as it is being received, it is being processed. It is online. That means the computer is connected directly to an input device via some communication lines, and then the data is being changed into some meaningful information there and then. That is called online. So that means there might be some terminal or some input device connected to a machine or to a terminal that feeds data online, and the data is being changed. Then the other mode is the real-time processing mode. When we are talking about real-time processing mode, here we are saying the computer processes incoming data as soon as it occurs, comma. Then it also updates the file. So apart from just processing it, that data has to be updated to make sure the file is up to date, and again give a response, an immediate response, a feedback concerning the data or concerning what has happened to the data. So you have to differentiate between real-time and online. Real-time is data being processed as soon as it is being fed, updating the file, giving a response on the status of the file. Okay? So the main purpose of real-time processing mode basically is to make sure you have accurate and up-to-date information. And in most cases when you talk about real-time, we are talking about the processing especially that is focused on something that requires some immediate response. Like when you're doing an M-Pesa transaction, you're doing real-time. You need to be updated on your statement immediately. You need your file to be updated. You need a feedback whether your money has gone where it's supposed to go. So that is real-time. When you're reserving an air ticket, you need to know whether the seat has been reserved for you and whether you'll travel on that time. So you need a feedback and you need a file to be updated. The other mode is distributed data processing mode. For distributed data processing mode, we are saying we have distributed the several tasks to more than one machine or to more than one computer. That's what we use the word distributed. We mean that we are giving different computers some jobs to do of the same. Maybe one file can be processed in different computers, and the results are combined through some data transmission media. Okay? A scenario of such case is when you're doing your emails and you're doing your internet. There is always your computer here, which you call a client, and there's always a server where some files are taken there, they are processed, and then you get some feedback. Now, another mode is time sharing. So time sharing data processing mode simply means we are partitioning, or we are having the time allocated to a particular task. We allocate time, and when that time is depleted, another tasks come in. It is processed. When its time is finished, another task come in like that. So that is a time sharing, whereby we can share a slice of our time by giving different jobs. So it's not a must that a job has to be processed until it is complete in the first allotment, but the tasks the computer keeps on feeding that task until it is done. So that is time sharing, and that's how processors operate, by operating different programs Each program is given a time sharing slot. Then we have the batch processing mode. So in batch processing mode, we are saying accumulate a number of jobs as a batch over some period of time. So keep on bringing them, maybe daily, weekly, or monthly. And then once we begin processing, we start processing now one by one. So accumulating those tasks, we call that one batch. So a batch can be just having several tasks piled together, and then once you start processing, then you say, this is my batch. And that happens normally when we are doing payroll, because when you're designing salaries for employees, you have to collect data about employer wages, the rates, if there is some information about loans to be deducted, NSSF, NHIF, KRA. So all that data has to be grouped before payroll can be processed, which will happen maybe monthly or weekly. Now, another mode is the multitasking or multi-programming mode. Now, when we say data is being processed in a multitasking way, we are simply saying one or more programs are running at the same time on a single processor. That is multitasking, having several tasks running on a single processor at the same time. And a good example is when you look at your computer, you'll find there is a clock running there, there is a date running there, there is weather running there, there's some sound running there, there's some WhatsApp running there. So your computer is operating on a multitasking or a multi-programming data processing mode. Now, let us look at what are the inputs and the outputs and the processing. So whenever a computer is used, it must work its way through back stages before any task can be complete. That means it must handle input, process, and get output. 3 things. So every time a computer is processing something, it is doing input, processing, and giving output. Now the input stage is basically the stage whereby the computer gathers the data that it needs before it can start operating something. Then the processing is where now programs that contain instructions about what to do with the input. So you have collected data. Now what should you do to it? Are you going to add? Are you going to subtract? Are you going to multiply? So that is the processing. Yeah. Then the output is basically what information do you produce after you have changed something from data into something. So the results of processing comes out as an output, either through the monitor or the printer. Now, finally, let me talk about what are the activities in data processing. So every time we talk about data processing, we are talking about the following activities. First of all, collect data. So we have the first activity called collection. Data originates somewhere, either from forms or from events or from observation. So you have to collect data, either record it on paper or store it in some document. Okay, so that is collection of data. Then after you collect data, you may have to convert that data. So the second stage activity is conversion, where data is converted from its source document into a form that can be fed into a computer. For example, when you collect information from the field, you come and fill it in forms and convert it into a way you can give it to the computer. Then the third stage is to manipulate the data. So once you've collected and converted the data, you can now manipulate, means you are processing it. There are some activities of changing it from one form to another. That is manipulation. And manipulation may mean you are sorting data, either maybe to be in a particular sequence so that you can easily know how data is arranged, or it can be maybe you are calculating. By calculating means you are doing some arithmetic and some subtraction, multiplication. So that all that forms manipulation of data, sorting and calculating. Then once you do that, you summarize your data. Now, can you now give us some meaning to data? Can you condense your data? Can you reduce it? You collected a lot of data, but when you're doing summarization, you're giving us data that is concise, data that is summarized. Then the last activity, when you're talking of data processing, is to compare now the output with whatever is known. Maybe in a business environment, we may now compare the information with what we already know. Can we improve on the company? Can we improve on our profits? Can we improve on collection? Okay. Then how do we manage output? So output can be managed by the following activities. Either you store, not all data that you produce you must print. You can store for future reference, okay? Or you can retrieve in the future. So retrieving is an activity in the output. Storing is an activity for managing output or managing the result. Or you can communicate that data through email, through WhatsApp, through internet, pass it to another party. So those are activities that are involved in data processing. So you can read more. Otherwise, God bless you.